Hi, boys and girls. Today we are going to talk about algebra readiness to see if you're ready to take Algebra 1. So hopefully you can see my board. So we've been struggling with Algebra 1 at Light of the World Academy with Ms. Robinson. So I thought that I would put together this video to see if students who come after this are ready to begin. So are you ready? Let's find out. The first thing that you need to know about in order to do algebra is fractions. Do you know fractions? If you don't have a clue about fractions, then you're definitely not ready for pre-algebra or Algebra 1. And if you request it, I can do a video starting ground zero with fractions. But today I'm going to assume that you know what a fraction is, that you know what a numerator and a denominator are. Numerator, denominator. The denominator stands for the whole. The numerator stands for the parts of that whole. So here we have 2/3 of 12. Of in math usually means time. So this simply means 2/3 times 12, which is a whole number, but I can put it over 1 and make it a fraction. The next step would be to reduce, if I can reduce. So I'm going to cross reduce here because I see that this denominator is 3, this numerator is 12. 3 will go into both of those. 3 will go into 3 one time. 3 will go into 12 4 times. And now 2 times 4 is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. So my answer here is 8. 2/3 of 12 is 8. Another skill that I'll need in algebra are equivalent fractions. I need to be able to create them. I need to know how to do that. So here I have picked the fraction 2/5, and if I want to make an equivalent fraction, that means a fraction that has the same ratio as 2 to 5, I will pick a number. I can, for example, if I pick 2 and I multiply 2 times the numerator and denominator, then I would get 2 times 2 is 4, and 5 times 2 is 10. If I wanted to find another equivalent fraction for 2/5, I'm going to choose the number 3. And if I do that, 2 times 3 is 6, and 5 times 3 is 15. So when reduced, all of these fractions would go back to 2/5. So that's another skill that you would need to know in order to be ready to begin algebra. I'm going to go over a couple other things with fractions. So you need to know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions. So very quickly, I'm going to go over a couple of problems for you. Sorry about that. My phone just loves to ding. Those are all my parents who need help homeschooling their children. So here I have 1/2 plus 3/4 plus 5/8. Now, I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. The first way would be to look at my denominators, and I see that they will all go into 8. 8 is a common denominator that 2, 4, and 8 all have. So in order to do that, I'm going to say 1/2 into 8. So I'd say 2 goes into 8 4 times. So I'm going to multiply my numerator and denominator by 4. So I have an equivalent fraction there of 4/8. And I'm going to add that to 3/4. So 4 would go into 8/2. So I would multiply my numerator by 2. 2 times 3 is 6. and now 5/8 because I don't need to change my denominator here. It's already 8. And when I add or subtract fractions, the denominator stays the same. I'm just going to add my numerators. 4 plus 6 is 10. 10 plus 5 is 15. Now, I am not finished, and the reason I am not finished is because my numerator is bigger than my denominator. And when I teach my classes, the numerator should always be smaller than the denominator. The denominator doesn't want to hold up a numerator that's bigger than he is. So we're going to say this is improper. So this is an improper fraction. And when we have an improper fraction, we want to make it into a mixed number. So you change the improper fraction into a mixed number by dividing. Eight into 15 goes one time, of course. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract 8 from 15 is 7. That 7 is going to become my new numerator, and my divisor here is my denominator. So 15/8 as a mixed number, as an improper fraction is 1, and 7/8 as a mixed number. I will show you really quickly, let's see, yes, I've used 7 minutes already. I will show you really quickly that if you are in algebra and you don't want to deal with fractions, you can take that common denominator of 8 and multiply every fraction by that, and then you don't have to deal with fractions. Let me show you what I mean. So 2 into 8 is 4, times 1 is 4, and 4 into 8 is 3. 4 into 8 is 2, and 2 times 3 is 6. 8 into 8 is 1. 1 times 5 is 5. So here I have 15 as the answer there. And I will show you that later when we get to the algebra. All right, subtraction of fractions is similar. So let's have 4/5 minus 2/3. Here, I will tell you that the main rule in adding and subtracting fractions is that denominators have to be the same. You cannot add or subtract fractions if the denominator is not the same. So we are going to, of course, find a common denominator for 5 and 3, and you're going to tell me it is 15. You are correct. So I like to write my subtraction and addition problems vertically instead of horizontally, so I'm going to do that very quickly. The common denominator, as you said, was 15. 3 into 15 goes 5 times. Whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 into 15 goes 3. 3 times 4 is 12. So now I can subtract my numerators. My denominator stays the same. 12 minus 10 is 2. So my answer there is 2/15. You need to have all of these skills before you are ready to move on to algebra. The reason being is they love to use fractions when they get to algebra. And if you can't do the fractions when they're just numbers, throwing a variable in there, some letters, is not going to help you. So there's also multiplication and division of fractions. Multiplication of fractions is fairly easy. You are just going to multiply across. So this is going to be 8 15ths. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 5 is 15. If you have bigger numbers, sometimes you can reduce them. Let's see, 12 15ths times 3 24ths. In this case, I'm going to see that I can look here and I can cross reduce. I'm saying I see in common that 3 will go into 15. 3 will go into 3 once. 3 will go into 15 5 times. Here, 12 will go into 24. So 12 goes into 12 once, and 12 will go into 24 twice. So now when I multiply across, I have 1/10 as my answer here. And then finally, there is division of fractions. And if you need the screen to stay longer, you just pause the monitor there and it'll stop and you can copy anything you need to copy. Division, so say I have 1/5 divided by 1/6. Now, when I have division of fractions, I change my division symbol to multiplication, either little times symbol or dot here, and then I have to flip the second fraction. So the first fraction stays the same, the second fraction is flipped, and then I multiply across 6/5. Of course, that's improper because the numerator is bigger than the denominator, and the denominator does not like this. So we divide 5 into 6. We get 1 with 1/5. The 5, the divisor becomes my denominator, the remainder becomes my numerator. So 6/5 is the same as 1 and 1/5. So there's your division of fractions. All of these are important to know for algebra readiness. And that's going to be our first review, and look for more as we get ready to begin our algebra. Thank you.